For 15 years, DJ Bob has been your go-to source for pop culture, past and present. We eat, sleep, and breathe pop culture, just like you. He's interviewed countless fascinating people, from well-known names to everyday heroes.
DJ Bob connects with his guests on a personal level, exploring their stories, passions, and challenges.
He's not just interviewing, he's building a community of like-minded, inspiring, driven, and talented individuals.
Join DJ Bob as he delves into the world of entertainment and the conversations that matter on all levels. This is the DJ Bob Show. Roll it.
The book is That's Not How It Happened. The author is my friend and co-creator of How I Met Your Mother, Craig Thomas. The book is about family, the entertainment industry, and disability all rolled into one, among other things. And we talk all about that. The reasons for writing this book, the inspiration behind it, the Muppets, the conversation goes everywhere. And I hope you grab the book, That's Not How It Happened, by Craig Thomas, available wherever books are sold on November 4th, 2025. Enjoy. Craig, it's so good to have you back.
So good to be back with you, Bob. I think it's my third time on the show, maybe something like that. Anyway, and we always are in touch outside of the show too, which is also a lovely thing. So it's great to be back talking to you, my friend.
So a recent addition to this podcast, I typically start these conversations now by asking, what is your elevator pitch? Like if you were put in an elevator and you had to go 3, 2, 1, go, you're hitting the button, how would you describe your career trajectory and all of that?
I have to elevator pitch my entire existence. This is high pressure, Bob. I'm terrified of this. Okay, here's my elevator pitch for where I am right now in my career. Am I understanding the assignment correctly?
Yes.
Okay. I would say I'm a guy who worked for many years in TV, who is transitioning into a new phase of my career where I write words on a page. And in fact, I wrote a lot of words on a lot of pages, and it's a book. And the book is coming out, my debut novel is coming out November 4th through HarperCollins. It's called That's Not How It Happened. And it is very personal. I hope it's funny. I hope it's poignant and moving. But that has been the biggest part of my new career focus and career chapter. I haven't really been working in TV. This is way too long of an elevator pitch. I'm a TV writer who now writes books.
The elevator
There it is. That's the short version.
The elevator got stuck.
The elevator got someone pressed every floor, and I just had a really long time to just keep blabbering. Here's the no one hit any buttons, and it just went right there. I'm a TV writer who's now writing books, and this book is inspired by my own son.
But the great thing about all of this is, if I can be candid, I've been there with you when this was supposed to be a movie, or like there was a version of this that.
Yeah, very different version. Similar spark of material, very different story, very different characters, but you're not wrong. Yeah, I could talk about that. That was the funny thing is, I think we've talked about this, Bob, where like things happen in life and you think it's a failure, and maybe it does feel like a failure in the moment. We tried to get a movie made. I'm going to back all the way up, and now this is the much longer than elevator pitch. This is the cross country ride pitch.
You're good.
But my son Elliot, my son Elliot is 18 years old. He's a huge part of my life and a huge part of what I want to write about and talk about. And well, because he's my son, but also because he has a rare genetic syndrome so he has health complexities and learning disabilities. So he's a person living with disabilities. And that's been a big new, eye-opening, and kind of wonderful chapter of my life of learning so much more about life through him. And I've always wanted to write about this. It's not something I co-created the show How I Met Your Mother, but I could never figure out how Elliot was born during How I Met Your Mother. I never figured out how to write about that or talk about that on How I Met Your Mother. So I tried to put all of that material into a movie, kind of inspired by the first weeks or couple of months of Elliot's life that was set in a hospital. And it was a movie musical about this journey these parents take, very similar to mine with my wife and I going on this journey of having a baby that's born that needs open heart surgery, like my son did, and that gets this diagnosis of like they're going to have disabilities, lifelong challenges. And that journey for a couple, and we wrote it, my writing partner Carter, who co-created How I Met Your Mother with me, we wrote that as a musical movie. It's a very unique and very long shot pitch, but we did get it very close to being made. And we had actors attached, we had financing, we were location scouting in Vancouver. We were really close. And then one of the actors who was attached to it bailed at the last minute in a way that made the whole thing fall apart, unfortunately, because the financing was based on that combination of those two actors. And once that happened, we had to go back to the drawing board and try to recast it. And the financing moved on. They moved that money on to make another movie, that company. And we never, it kind of like slipped through our fingers the way you hear that story a lot in independent film. And it's so close and yet so far. And this book that I've written in the last couple of years since that all happened, the book is very much the phoenix rising from the ashes of that of that project failing so close. Like it was like fumbling the football on like the 3rd-yard line. And it really broke my heart. I was really depressed about it because I put so much of myself. Carter and I wrote this movie that was really a tribute to my son in a lot of ways. Carter's also a parent, and he was also putting his love of his children into that movie. We wrote songs. We had a full movie feature musical.
Yeah, I heard some of them. They're great.
Thank you. It meant a lot to us. Look, maybe someday that'll come back to life. But the process of putting such a vulnerable story together and then getting notes on it and getting financing concerns and all these things, all the things that kind of you put your heart into this movie script and then people are talking about it as this kind of piece of commerce too.
Yeah.
And that idea of kind of taking something so close to you and exposing it to like the business and the logistics. Some of that material is what my book is about. My book is in part about a family story being made into a movie by Hollywood. My book is an entirely different story about an entirely different situation. I could talk more about that later, but you're right. The book really did spark out of what seemed like a failure at the time. I love stories like this where you feel so defeated in some moment, but when you look back on it, in retrospect, you can see a good thing came of it that may never have come of it, which is this book that's about to come out.
I bring the personal touch to it because I was there with you when you were going through that and you were calling me like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
We talked around that time about I was very heartbroken because it's so meaningful to me, that story.
This wasn't for the podcast. You said I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
And
And I really appreciate it. And I know you know what it feels like to put yourself out there and you share very intimate parts of yourself. And then if something doesn't click or if you end up kind of getting hurt in that process, it's hard, but you got to keep going, right? You got to scrape yourself off the floor and say, okay, there's still something here. I still, as a writer, as an artist, I still need the desire. Like what led me to try that movie was this desire to tell a story about a big part of my life that sort of didn't fit into How I Met Your Mother at the time. And I'm still a writer. I'm still a creative person. I want to use my life and be able to talk about that and talk about my son. And so I figured out a way to do it with this book, which it has been one of my absolute favorite creative experiences I've ever had.
And it is one of my favorite things to cover because I feel like you have made a book about people with disabilities that is accessible to anyone. It's not
Oh,
just
thanks.
the disability book or it's inspiring, but not in that way that we talk about where it's
Right.
kind of thrown in your face. It's so real and so nuanced, and congratulations.
Man, that means the world to me. Yeah, I sent Bob, I sent you an early copy of it. All I had was a PDF of it. It wasn't even printed into a galley when I sent it to you. So I sent it to you very early. I was very moved. You read it very quickly and got back to me and said how you loved it. And that meant so much to me coming from you. And yeah, it's been a joy. It really has been. The premise of it is exactly what you said. I don't want it to be like I'm a comedy writer at heart. I wanted this book to be funny. My feeling is the disability community really wants and needs stories, and
Yeah,
the parent side of that too, right? Being the parent of a child with disability, like I think that community cumulatively is hungry for stories that speak to that community, but also they can be funny, right? It doesn't all need to be super intensely earnest and
no,
sincere and like inspiring in quotes, where it's like it has to be inspiring and uplifting or else people aren't going to want to read it. No, the reality of life with a disability or life as the parent of a child with a disability is there are lots of ups and downs, and
no,
some of it's funny and absurd and ridiculous too, right? It's like we all get to still laugh and have a sense of humor. So my premise was I want to write a funny book about this that is also hopefully sweet and true and poignant, but doesn't really shy away from the fact that there are these challenges, and it's not all inspiring all the time, and it's messy and it's real, and it's just real people in real life. It's just a book about a family, and one of the people in the family happens to have a disability, in this case Down syndrome, and which has some overlaps to my son's genetic syndrome, which is a rarer syndrome called Jacobson syndrome. But I sort of extrapolated some parts of my son and my family into the book, but it's also a lot of fiction. But I just wanted to tell about that cliff that especially parents of children with intellectual and cognitive disabilities feel is coming. Like once school ends, what does an adult life look like for a young adult
yeah.
with an intellectual disability or any kind of disability? They call it the cliff, right? They call it
I remember that being a worry for my parents,
yeah,
but I had this creative outlet, and I was able to kind of use that as kind of my way in, and
yeah,
I haven't looked back from that. But I realized that so many
yeah,
people don't have that.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important is to find your place in the world, and to find your place in the world as not just defined by having a disability. I remember when I first met you, you said, "I'm a podcaster who happens to have a disability."
That's my line. That is what.
By the way, that's a way better elevator pitch than my meandering nightmare pitch earlier. That stuck with me, Bob. So that is what you that's how it's done, the elevator pitch. Like, and that stuck with me because I love that so much. You're saying I don't want to have to be defined by this one thing. I don't want to have to inspire people in
I
quotes
will
about
say,
all the time. I just want to be me and I want to do my thing, and my podcast will sometimes be about that, but other times it's just my podcast about what I want to talk about.
I will say, since we met, there's been a shift.
Interesting. Tell me about that.
I am talking about it more
Good. Yeah.
because
As long
because
as you
I realized that it's creating a dialogue with people, and
yeah.
they may not know things, and if I can educate one person,
Yeah.
then I'll talk about it forever.
Yeah. I think yeah, and I think it's an important moment in our country to make sure that we're bringing human faces and specificity to identities, because it's a tricky moment in America right now without getting too political. I think humanizing these stories and increase, I think what the world is what I'm concerned the world is lacking at the moment, or America at least, is empathy
Yes,
and deep human connection. And part of my aim with the book is that through laughter you open people's hearts a little bit more, and people can take the message in, like much as you want to be a podcaster first and a person with a disability second. I hope my book just reads like it is a funny story about parenthood and marriage and siblinghood. It's a story about a family, and also one of the family members has a disability, and that does affect the story in various ways. But the idea of just like these are people, the person first story, the person first language, and I think that's important. And I think you've done a great job on your podcast of conveying that you're you. That's part of you. You'll talk about it when you want, and other times you'll talk about other stuff you want to talk about. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and one of the questions that I had for you when just reading this book, because I wrote down a couple questions as I was reading, was there a character in this book that once you started writing them, it changed your perspective on yourself and how you view the world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and especially great because of how the story is told in the book, which I should clarify for people. And I hope if anyone listening might go check out this book, by the way, where you can go to craigthomaswriter.com/novel to buy it or pre-order it if it's not November 4th yet. When this drops, I'm not sure. But if it's after November 4th, you can buy it anywhere. The book is told through four ever shifting perspectives, the four members of this family: the mother, the father, the young adult who's in his early 20s who has Down syndrome, and his neurotypical sister who's a senior in high school. And it switches those four perspectives in a way that I hope is never boring, because it really switches, Bob. You read it every few pages. You're never in one person's perspective too long.
But
The reason the book
they all intersect.
they all intersect, and part of the reason the titles of the book is That's Not How It Happened is that each perspective kind of contradicts the other, and you hear one person's perception of an event and then you see another person's entirely different perception of the same event, and they kind of there's a fun tension between how everyone's seeing it. And the plot of the book, part of the story of the book, is that Hollywood is making a movie out of the memoir the mother in the family has written. The mother in the family has written a memoir about the journey of raising her son who has Down syndrome, and the book becomes a surprise bestseller, gets optioned by Hollywood, and then Hollywood starts making it into a movie. So you have all of the different versions of the family members' perceptions of their story, who gets to tell their story, who has it right, what are the facts, and then Hollywood is also trying to sort of distort their story into like a prepackaged Hollywood movie that is quote unquote inspiring. And the comedic conceit of the book is, will the making of this inspiring film destroy this family? Because their story gets very twisted and turned and distorted as Hollywood sort of chews it up. And it was very fun to write all four of those perspectives. And yeah, it gave me more empathy for all of the characters. I was able to really tap into my connection to my son in writing the character of Emmett, who is a 24-year-old with Down syndrome. Also, my son has gone from kindergarten all the way through high school to an inclusion school that was founded by three mothers of kids with Down syndrome, who didn't see any right school, any great fit for their kids. So they invented their own school that would be inclusive of all kinds of different kids with disabilities and neurotypical kids all mixed together. It's a really great place called the Ideal School of Manhattan. And so getting to write from all those different perspectives was really meaningful. The character that's closest to me is the dad in the family, because he works in Hollywood, and he's a parent trying to figure out how to be a parent to these two very different children he has, which I also relate to. I have a daughter who's 9, who's neurotypical. And so there are sort of echoes of my own family in there. None of them it's not actually all four of us. But I'd say writing the father character was hard, because if there's a villain in the book, it's the dad, because he's combating his own narcissism, his own feeling of wanting to stay relevant in Hollywood. As a screenwriter, he wants to take on the job of writing the screenplay of the book his wife has written. So now he's taking his wife's story and sort of changing it to be a version,
shifting it, molding it.
Yeah, he's putting it through his own filter. So it's really the whole book is really about storytelling. And are we hearing each other's stories? Are we hearing how each of us see what has happened? How do we all frame our life story and our narratives? And the humbling part was the parts where I realized I had to make the dad absurd. I had to poke fun and puncture the idea of this sort of male perspective and this addiction to Hollywood success that this character has, some of which I've wrestled with, since How I Met Your Mother. I finished How I Met Your Mother when I was about 40, and the 10 years after that was moving back to New York and redefining myself. And some of that, I would say, ego death of letting go of this earlier definition of yourself to figure out who you are, evolving and moving forward. Writing the foibles and mistakes and flaws of that dad character was challenging because some of it was poking fun at some of my own foibles and flaws. But it was actually great too, because when you puncture that stuff, it helps you move on from being stuck in it. And again, the dad isn't exactly me. I like to think he's far more absurd and satirical than me in this book. But some of that is true, are things that I have felt or wrestled with. And so, right, that was the most challenging character, was to really and lean into my own flaws.
We talk about empathy, and he really almost lacks it in a way. He wants it.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
in, yeah. Well, his story is a journey of realizing that he has to gain more empathy and come out of his own need to make everything his narrative and start listening to other people's narratives, which I think is a journey everyone can relate to, and everyone can do more of that in their own life. And writing that helped me think along those lines more in my own life. So it was challenging but really helpful. And then getting inside all the other perspectives was wonderful. It had that feeling of what I missed when How I Met Your Mother ended. Is I knew those characters so well, and when you know characters that well, they start to talk to you. You get story ideas from the characters. You start to have this like mystical thing of like the characters are telling you what to do a little bit. They're alive. They're leading you to stories and to even just individual lines and jokes and responses. You're in those characters' shoes. And when How I Met Your Mother ended, I thought, what if I never have that feeling again? But I did. I did have it with this book. Writing this book made me feel that way.
Like it almost like an identity crisis when How I Met Your Mother ended. Like you,
Oh yeah. I mean, I did it for 10 years, during which time my son was born. We lived in Los Angeles to do it, but we were from New York. My family's from Long Island. My wife's from Brooklyn. We had lived in New York and went to LA to do How I Met Your Mother. And then when it ended, we moved back, and it was like so many different identity shifts happened during those 10 years. And then the move back to New York. Was I going to stay as much involved in TV? We had a second kid along the way since I've moved back to New York. We had my daughter, who's now 9. So yeah, so many different identity shifts and so much change and evolution and learning and losing things, all of that. I've been back here, 11, 12 years in New York. And yeah, all of that journey and redefinition is in this book. This is what I wrote about. That's what this book is about, really.
and the other thing that I want to point out about this book is the fantastic audiobook that is coming out to accompany it.
Yes, for How I Met Your Mother fans, the audiobook, it has these 4 different perspectives played by 4 different actors, 2 of whom are Josh Radnor and Kobe Smulders from How I Met Your Mother, which is so great because I miss those guys. I miss writing things that they perform. They're such amazing actors and my friends. And when I realized, wait, I have a book with 4 perspectives, the 2 of the main roles would be great for Josh and Kobe, and they're such wonderful people that they immediately said yes. They were like, we'd be honored to read your words again, to perform your words, and they had a great time going in and doing the audiobook. I think the audiobook of this, and there's 2 other actors too. One is a young adult with Down syndrome, Kevin Iannucci, who was fantastic in this movie Champions with Woody Harrelson and Caitlin Olsen a couple years ago by the Farrelly brothers. Really funny, great movie. And so he plays Emmett, and then there's a great audiobook narrator who read the role of Darcy, the senior in high school who's the daughter. So it's like this great Marley is her name. It feels like a little audio play. It feels like you're listening to this old school like radio play of like it sort of doesn't feel like a book almost. It feels like you're listening to a play with all these voices doing these monologues. So I think the audiobook will be a really unique experience. My prediction is the audiobook may outsell the physical book because of Josh and Kobe, and I hope How I Met Your Mother fans will just really want to hear that. They're fantastic in it, as you might imagine. And I love that the book is very much its own thing, and I think the audiobook will be this whole other journey for people. So I hope people check it out.
I hope so too. And as soon as I heard that there was an audiobook, even before I knew the cast announcement,
I
you,
think people listen to audiobooks as much or more than they
oh my
read
God,
books now. You know what I mean? I listen to
yeah,
a lot of them myself. I will buy the physical book and the audiobook and I'll go back and forth.
it
Yeah.
helps me because I can go back to a part that I missed or,
Yeah. I
'cause-
love it. I walk around New York listening to audiobooks for long drives, and I will then decide, oh, I want to read some of the actual book, and I'll just sort of keep track of my where I am in it, and I'll find it. I'll go back to the physical book. So I'll buy two. This is how I'm trying to help the publishing industry stay vital. I buy two of it. I usually buy a hard copy of the book and the audiobook and go back and forth.
me
So
too. Me,
please do that for my book. Anyone listening?
I, so I want, and this is where I compliment you, but this is where I bring another friendship anecdote to this. I took ownership of this book.
Mm.
I felt like this was my book.
Oh,
Like, because I related to it so much and we're friends and, there are all these elements to it. So when the book is out into the world, how are you going to feel when the book isn't just yours anymore?
yeah. It's a great question. It's a really smart question. I mean, I guess it's the same as anything, episodes of How I Met Your Mother or short stories or essays I've written. But
But this is different.
this is different. This is more personal and it's bigger and longer than, it's the biggest thing I've done besides How I Met Your Mother. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I hope I view it as like a message in a bottle. Like you send this thing out in the world and you hope the message in the bottle finds the right person or people. And I'm nervous. Will it find those people? Will it find people that read it and don't get it and put mean comments about it online or something? I don't know. Will it find people like you who it really speaks to? My hope is it's a book that can speak to anyone in any family ever first. And then also it has this element that is about disability.
If
But
anything,
first it's a book about a family and then it's that's my hope. I hope people won't think, oh, I'm not, that's not my family, so I won't understand this.
no,
I
and
think I hope, you tell me, I hope it's just like anyone in any family could relate to the dynamics
the
in this book.
thing
That's my hope.
the thing that I hope that people get out of this is that when I was a kid, there was a character in a wheelchair on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when that character was introduced, people started asking me questions on the playground and on the street. People were curious. So
In a
maybe,
good way? In a
yeah.
good way. Yeah.
So, so maybe if they see this, maybe if they read this, the conversation dialogue will open up.
It matters, right? Like another big element of the book is representation. There's this thing about, there's a whole subplot line. I don't want to do too many spoilers of the book, but that talks about this representation. Are you showing the real thing? Are you showing some Hollywood kind of bullshit facsimile
Glamorized.
of the real thing?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, when you do it the right way, and Sesame Street showing characters with some type of a difference or disability, I think it's so important. It is such a vital public service when a place like Sesame Street does that because it makes it okay. And then people felt more open
And
to talking to you. And I think this stuff matters. It matters to do it the right way and to hope. And when you can reach young people with it, it matters even more.
no, but
So
I
it's great.
say, but
Yeah.
I say that because now I'm actually friends with that actor, and she now
Oh,
knows the impact that she had on me. But it's like
that's
this,
amazing.
it's this cool full circle thing. So if your book, obviously your book is not Sesame Street, but what I'm saying is it could spark conversations with people, conversations that they wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah, I really hope so. That would be a dream. That would be a dream come true. I think that people in the disability community and parents like myself, it can feel very lonely, right? And it can feel like, is there a place in the world for families like us? Is there a place in the world for kids like our kids? And I hope this book sparks discussion and openness about that. I started writing the book 2.5 years ago, and unfortunately, I think the world has gotten a little tougher in America, at least for people with disabilities, the way it's being discussed. There's this, kind of right wing, like manosphere
There's a
podcast world
stigma.
that is really celebrating, like, we can say the R word again. And there's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of about, the way disability is being talked about, what the government is doing to funding that helps people with disabilities. It's a tough moment in
I
2025. So I hope this book comes out at a moment when people will find it and connect to it, and there'll be a humanity. When you can find a way to be funny and human and empathetic about these topics, I hope that it does spark discussion, and it makes, or at least it finds the right audience and makes them feel less alone. It gives them a laugh. It makes them feel like they're seen, and that this journey is worthy to talk about. And these characters are all people you can love and understand.
and I'm gonna say this in a way that you can understand. We need more stories like this and not people like the dude from Smash Mouth. And I know you get that joke.
Yeah, I mean,
I still think about that.
it's sadly, like, we live in a culture
You know what
where
I'm talking about,
I
right,
do. I
Yuri?
remember the story you told me where he said, he said some things using like slurs against people with disabilities. It drives me crazy. Um, I wrote this piece for the Boston Globe called Hollywood and the R Word, that is sort of an
Yep.
explanation, an exploration, I should say, of my own journey as a writer. But in a way, it led to this whole book. That was
That's another thing. You sent that to me. You're like, is this okay? Like,
right.
can you read it first? And I could
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. I just think we have to talk about this stuff, and we have to humanize these conceptual discussions and say, hey, these are human beings. Everyone is worthy of respect. Everyone is worthy of dignity. There's never a reason to use words that dehumanize or other or marginalize anybody. And if members of a community tell you they don't want those words, I don't like stand-up comedians and podcasters and like people who are dismissive and say like, no, they're just words, it's just jokes, it doesn't matter. No one cares anymore about those words. No, words do matter. Words do matter. The way we either respect or fail to respect various communities matters. It matters in terms of inclusion. It matters in terms of opportunities, and it even matters in terms of people's physical safety in the world, right? And the way people are treated. That can apply to the disability community. It can apply to religion, race, and all of these things. Like, it actually really matters how we talk about and think about these things. And I guess the premise of my book is, can we use humor to unlock some of that and put humanity and put specificity. And when you read a story that humanizes these characters and makes you feel what they're feeling and you're laughing, hopefully it tells you in a way, in a deeper way, why it's important to be respectful and inclusive and create a place in our society for people with disabilities and differences that values them and gives them an important and valued place in our society and in our world and in pop culture, and how we tell stories about people with disabilities and about families like mine and like the family in this book. And I hope my dream, long-winded answer to your earlier question, is that this book will find people in my and your worlds that understand these topics, but hopefully it will break out and find people who aren't as conversant in disability and disability rights and representation, all these things, but read this book and think, oh, this sparked my brain a little bit on these topics. My mind is a little more sensitized and aware of these issues, and it doesn't feel like medicine. The reason I'm writing the book as a comedy is I don't want this to feel like it's a big plate of like lima beans and vitamins and broccoli. I want it to be candy first, and then there's sort of nutrition down
You
the
wanted
line.
you
There's hidden nutrition
you wanted to
after
be you wanted to
it.
be that bubblegum medicine that
I want it to be bubblegum, a spoonful of sugar. I want it to be more spoonful of sugar than medicine, but there's something of value. I just hope people read it and they go, that's a really funny and poignant book about a family, and also it talks about these things. That would be success to me.
yeah, like if you can get me to laugh out loud and my mom asked me, "Are you okay?" and because
Yeah.
I related to it so
That's great.
much.
That makes me so happy to hear, Bob. That means a lot. I really don't want it to be like homework. I don't want it to be like homework or like, I should do this thing because it'll make me a better person to read this book. If someone's reading it because of that, I feel like I've failed. I really want it to be like, this is a page turner. There's juicy plot twists and it's funny. That's my dream.
The way I described it to you is it's Perks of Being Wallflower and Wonder, and those are the two blurbs that are on your book, and it's
Yeah.
so fitting. And you know I have a fondness for both of them. And
Yeah, yeah. I was so honored that RJ Placcio read my book and gave me this beautiful blurb for it and really loved the book. And she's actually moderating my event in New York City. I'm doing a book event on the day the book comes out, November 4th. I'm doing a book event at the Barnes and Noble on the Upper West Side.
see,
And
that's
RJ,
something I wish I
yeah,
could go. I wish
I
I
know.
could.
I wish that too.
I'm hoping.
Please come if you possibly can. She's moderating the book event. She loved the book. I don't really even know her. I have a couple of friends in common. Josh Radner is friendly with her, and I'm going to meet her in person for the first time. Hopefully before the event or at the event. But she took the time just because of mutual friends to read my book, and she really loved it. She gave me these beautiful words about it that are very much on the back of the book and in the jacket of the book. And it was so great because she cares about these issues. She wrote a beautiful book. Her book was an inspiration to me. It's a book about, difference in the world of disability and a rare medical condition, changing a whole family's life, not just one child's life, but the whole family's life is changed by this. And she wrote this beautiful journey that shifts perspectives. And I was definitely inspired by her book, and it's funny and it's sweet. And then it was made into a movie by the writer-director Stephen Chbosky, who wrote the novel. He's also a novelist. Wrote Perks of Being a
And
Wallflower.
now he's a
He's an
dear friend
amazing,
of ours. He's a dear friend
yeah,
of ours too.
yeah. He's an amazing artist in his own right. And he agreed to read the book too. I reached out to him because I said you were a big inspiration to me too, and he gave me this beautiful blurb. So it's true. I have, without even fully intending to, I kind of have the creative team of the book and movie of Wonder
So
blurbing
you
my
have
book.
all of my favorite.
Yeah, whenever I talk to you, I always see the poster of Wonder behind you in your room that you do the
I've
podcast
got,
from.
I've
So
got, a, I've got the I've got the screenplay of Wonder. I've got it bound, like leather bound. I've got
what an
all of it,
achievement that book is, because again, that's just a very human book that just gets you inside
and
all
I'm
of
so
these
excited about
perspectives.
the musical that they're casting.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's amazing. That's fantastic. That's great. That book is worthy of everything that's happened to it. Again, just such an achievement to write something that speaks to everyone, right? And the one sentence, the elevator pitch of that, you might go, "Oh, I'm not sure if that's a book for me. That sounds like something I don't understand." It's written in such a human, empathetic, and beautiful way where you're just in these people's shoes, and that's a huge artistic success to write about something really specific, challenging, not something you read about or every day, and maybe on its surface, not something people might think they want to read about. If it's, it might scare people. It might seem like, I can't, that's too intense. But it's written in with this soft, nuanced touch that just guides you into that story and into these people's shoes. Definitely a huge inspiration for what I've written. If I have even a little bit of that in this book, I would consider it a success.
And you do.
Thanks.
And this is a nice. It's so great to talk to you about this because I feel like I've been with you on this journey. I know I keep saying that, but I really feel like I was a part of it in a small way.
That means a lot to me, Bob. I appreciate it. Um, it is a journey, right? Like it's every day is a journey, and not everybody understands what goes into that journey. And so I think when we can tell stories that put front and center the steps of a complicated journey that involves disability, it's just a good thing. I love I when art is really well done about that. And again, Wonder does feel inspiring, but it's an earned inspiration because it's just really beautiful. It's funny, it's warm, it's heartfelt. But there are sometimes where art about or little videos online or things made about disability is inspiring in this forced, contrived way. And I think nobody actually really wants that. I think people want something a little deeper than that. People think they want that and they'll click like on little videos about it. But it's like there's more to be told. There's more to be shown. There's more to be discussed about those journeys and the flaws and the absurdity of it, and the complexity, the dark times. But also, I hope my book doesn't read dark. I hope it reads more funny than dark. There's definitely some
No,
moments that are genuinely sad
it's
and down, but
very
it's
it's
hopefully.
it's very real life. It's
Thank
very
you.
like we got Kim Shag stuff, but then we got Kim that really you're the master of the button, my friend. There are a lot of buttons in this book.
Yeah, I tried to write the book for my own ever shrinking low attention span. I'm 50, and even I feel like my attention span is really eroded from in my adult life because we are constantly bombarded, right? Everything has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And I tried to say, how do I make sure this book has substance and depth, but doesn't get boring? It moves. I will say my TV writing background and my background writing these half-hour sitcoms across, almost a decade, knowing when to end a scene, when to end an episode, how to end an episode so you want to watch the next episode. I tried to harness all of that and put it in this book where each little section that you finish, each little character perspective, hopefully ends with something that makes you want to see what the next character is going to say, because it's probably going to completely contradict what you just read.
Whenever a perspective starts and ends, it's like very satisfying. Like
Oh, cool.
you're not wanting, you're not like, oh, okay, I wanted a little more from that. No, it's complete. And then
Good. That's my perfect. Leave. That's the perfect target. I would leave them wanting more. Even writing it, if I was writing past a certain point, I would feel the energy start to leave, and I would say, no, that means this section has to end sooner than that, and in some way that has a button on it. You're exactly right. What's the little button? What's the little pivot point that ends this little section? Like an act break in
you're a
TV.
comedy writer at heart. That's what you do.
Yeah, yeah. You want to end. Yeah, I think the instinct is like end on a joke, end on a twist, end on. We used to write How I Met Your Mother for commercial television. I know now it's just something people watch on streaming that just has these breaks that probably seem arbitrary. But it used to be that you had to keep people wanting to stay tuned through 2.5 minutes of car commercials and whatever.
Movie
And
trailers. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I wanted the book to feel like that. Like each section ends, and I hope people will say, I thought I would stop reading here and go to the grocery store, but I can't stop reading here. I've got to read one more bit because I got to see what the response is to what just happened. And
Did I tell you when I first watched How I Met Your Mother, how I binged it and I stayed up until 3 a.m. and
amazing.
and my mom got pissed at me because she's like, "What are you doing up?" And it was right before the finale aired, so I was binging it so I
Oh
could watch it
wow, you're cramming it all in.
so I could watch along with the world. It was fun. It was cool, but I didn't. So a part of this podcast, and I feel like every time we talk, it's just a check-in because we've known each other for so long. Do you have any questions for me about anything? Anything that's been bubbling in there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I was curious since we're talking about my book today, which again I'm grateful for, Bob. As you switch those perspectives and you're reading that book, did you see elements that you related to in terms of your own family, your siblings, your parents, without getting too deep or too personal? Like, did you feel like the some bases were covered that even if your mom read this book or your dad or like your siblings, you have a sister, don't you?
I have two sisters.
You have
Yeah.
two sisters. Sorry, two sisters. I know you're an uncle. Um, do you feel like I don't know, like what like do
I
you feel like it reminded you of anything that like in your own family, your own life, do you think it would
well,
speak to them in some ways, some of the
one of
issues?
the things that I gravitated towards was just the idea of like, oh, there's a there's a disability related issue going on. Let's laugh about it later and joke about it and let's have some levity in this world because it's hard and you
Yeah.
gotta laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. You do, right? You have to laugh or else you'll lose your mind a little bit. And in laughing, there's something that's released and helps you move on and moves through and move through. And yeah, it is like the most important tool. And I feel like there's so little in art I see or read or videos or whatever, anything about disability. I just don't see a lot of comedy. There are some wonderful comedians and wonderful comedy out there, but I'm just saying like I think it is a
I will
community that
I
could use a
will
laugh, and that's the main thing I hope this
I
book
will
does.
say there is it's not disability related, but there is a YouTube channel that is bringing me a lot of joy right now. And
Oh, what is it?
it's called Recess Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's this comedian and he interviews kids. It's almost like those old Sesame Street bits where like Kermit would talk to like a kid or something like that. And they ask them questions about, their lives and it's real funny stuff because it's unfiltered and it's just pure
Oh,
joy.
cool.
It's pure joy. And
I'll
then
check it
he
out.
and then he has a spin-off series called Celebrity Substitute where he brings in a celebrity to fill in for a teacher for a day. So like
Hmm.
John Batiste did one and like a bunch of like famous like
Cool.
it's just like positive energy stuff
Yeah.
that we need
Yes. We do need it. We do need that right now.
without any
Yeah.
agenda, we're just good ultra unadulterated fun.
Well, I will say one other thing in terms of a question for you, except maybe this is just a comment or even a compliment to you. Part of the book is this idea that the mother in this family, like so many parents of kids with disabilities that I know and have met, and like myself, she's worried about the world having a place for her son in adult life. Once school ends, the way parents, I think especially parents of kids with some type of learning intellectual disability, the way I always hear them talk about it, and I've learned to talk about it too, is the cliff. The cliff you fall off when schooling ends, right? Your kid gets into their
Yeah.
early 20s and there's a cliff. And like, is there a place for them? What does schooling beyond high school look like? What does work beyond that look like? Oh, sorry.
I don't think we've ever discussed my journey post high school, and I'd be willing to share more about that if
Yeah,
you're
well, that's kind of where I was headed with this, just to finish the thought. But then that's kind of what I'm going to ask you, which is just to say that, well, I was going to say the part of the question of the book is what does an adult life look like when you have a disability, and what is how do we create a future that works,
well,
just to give you the compliment, I don't want to miss the compliment part for you, and seeing what you've done with this podcast and carving out your own thing and your own space, your own way to tell your stories, to talk about disability if you want, to not if you don't feel like it that day, and creating a forum and a platform to bring people together and put something out there that is your thing. That is you finding a way and self-starting to find a way to have a voice and to have something that's meaningful to you that you put out into the world. And I think that's a huge thing. That's a huge part of what my book is about. And I've always really admired how you've been able to do that.
thank you. And it's this podcast really sparks not from disability, not from pop culture,
Yeah,
not from any of that. It sparks from curiosity.
right.
You do
Which is the
something,
best thing.
you do something I enjoy. I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah. That's it. Curiosity. To me, that's the most precious commodity in the world is curiosity. I think it's what's missing. It's what empathy is made out of, is
That is wh-
curiosity.
that is
The
why
main ingredient.
I'll do an interview with you, and then I'll do an interview with somebody from an obscure 70s children's show that
Oh
nobody
yeah.
cared about. And it's just like because my my world was so limited in ways, but because it was
Mm,
so limited, I had all this time to really focus in on everything else
yeah.
culturally.
Tell me about the before we are done. I don't want to miss. Tell me about your post high school journey because it's true. I don't know. I know the podcast was there. Podcast was there in high school, I think, right? The origins of it, but what educationally and like what was kind of post 18 or 18 in your early 20s look like? It's true. I don't really know that.
Well, I graduated when I was 19
Mm-hmm.
because my mom, she kept me back because I went to a school for people with disabilities and
Yeah.
then I went to a public school. And public school, especially high school, was so mentally draining for me that
Yeah.
that I just couldn't see myself going to college. Not that I
Yeah.
didn't want to, not that I didn't want to learn, not that I didn't want to, not that I wanted to sit on my ass and just,
Right. Well, clearly not.
I just literally I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So what I did was I just really honed in on this show. Our show was about 4 years old at the time, so
Yeah.
I treated this as my job.
Yeah. Well, it is.
So I really try to, and I remember there was this coordinator that I worked with that was trying to get me a job, that was trying to get me out into the world. And she said to me, what you do is great with this podcast, but you need to do something more substantial with your life.
Wait, who
And
said that, Bob? Who was saying
like
that?
this coordinator that was trying to help,
Coordinator. Got it. Got it. Got it.
was
Okay.
trying to help
Yeah.
me.
Interesting.
And I'm like,
Strangely dismissive of something you've created yourself
and
that you're doing and succeeding at.
what's very funny is that she herself was also disabled.
Mm.
So maybe there
What did
was,
you think when she said that?
well, and I never, I'm, I'm a nice guy, but I literally rolled out of there because I was pissed.
Yeah,
I was mad
I get
be-
it.
because you're discrediting all this work that
Right.
I put in. You see my episodes. I, I'm a heavy hitter. I go for big interviews and big people and big things. And it's like,
Yeah.
I can
And
do,
you do it and you get them and you succeed and you've done it for years and years. And before it was even cool to have a podcast, you were like doing it. You really have had this for what anniversary did you just hit? The 14th, 15th? Like what an achievement and you were riding a wave
I was
so
15
early.
when I started it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to diminish any part of that, is my opinion. I'm sure she meant well in what she was saying, but I disagree with that assessment, and
But
you've proven it wrong
But
by what you've done.
that moment was so transformative for me because you're like, oh,
Yeah,
people don't get it. People don't understand. Well, I'm
yeah,
gonna fix that.
yeah.
It
Well,
was
you've
like,
done it. You've done it. You've successfully done that. My huge part of my book is exploring this and and you've done it. And like when I was talking about the founders of my son's inclusion school, they saw that there wasn't a good school for their kids that had Down syndrome, and they said, "We're going to invent a school that brings in all kinds of different kids with disabilities and without disabilities." And now that school is on its like 15th year, or something similar to what the time frame you just described. And I'm so, to use that I word, inspired, but the right way, not prepackaged fake inspiration. I am
yeah.
actually deeply inspired when I see people with challenges who invent and create and paint their way out of trouble with creativity and ingenuity and belief in themselves. Oh, I'll invent a school. Oh, I'll create a podcast before most people know what that even is. The person you were talking to probably didn't even know what that was. And it was a prescient thing. It was prescient of you and very insightful to dive into this format that is now like such a valid format. I think podcasts are the format I consume most of anything.
I'm a radio, because I'm a radio guy at heart.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's what it is. You saw the wave and you got on the wave early, and you deserve all the credit in the world for that.
It started out as a 4 hour a day, 5 days a week live show where we taking a phone call, like I was doing the thing.
It's great. But yeah, well, you made it for yourself. Maybe that wasn't in the world for you to go like pluck off the tree like an apple, like low hanging fruit. Like you made your own version of that because you needed to make your own version of that. And I think that's the kind of creativity I'm talking about in the book when I talk about what the mother character, the mom Paige in the book, is able to do. She's able to create a place for her son to work and for all different kinds of people with disabilities to work. She invents a cafe, a coffee shop that primarily the staff are people with disabilities, which is also, again, I'll say the inspired word, inspired by people I actually met and got to know up in the Berkshires. My family and I spent a lot of time up in the Berkshires. We have a house up there. And there's this wonderful place. There's actually two of them because it's such a success, called Extra Special Teas.
I've heard of that.
Two tea shops up in two different towns in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, where the employees are primarily people with disabilities, founded by a mom of a parent and her husband, wonderful people, Scott and Sherry, that didn't see a place for their son, so they created one. They magicked it into being with their brains and their hearts. And that to me is the correct usage of the word inspiring or inspired by.
And it's funny,
all of this is in my book.
Sometimes I'm inspired by what I do. Sometimes I'm shocked by what I do. Like, how do I pull this off? And that's not like an egotistical thing. It's like because I remember when I was 12 years old calling Nickelodeon and calling Disney Channel to get interviews for a little show that I was doing, and I got hung up on. And now
it's amazing. Your persistence and like that's the thing. Like the people sometimes say, and this is just anybody in the world thing, not a disability thing, but just anything that you start from scratch, there's a point at which it's so unlikely and far-fetched that it's going to work. You're getting hung up on. Why did people say, you and Carter, when you created How I Met Your Mother, you'd never written on a sitcom. Why did you think you could do this? And I think there's just some wonderful but maybe slightly crazy delusional part of your brain and my brain and Carter's brain and the brain of anybody who just launches something that seems impossible until suddenly it's possible. There's some part of your brain that needs to almost delusionally believe in it before there's any empirical reason to believe in it or think it can possibly happen. And only from that kind of leap of faith does anything cool happen. But you have to really suffer through a lot of uncertainty, a lot of getting hung up on, a lot of wanting to hang up on yourself. And if you can survive the discomfort of that and crawl out the other side, it's amazing what you can create if you can just figure it out and figure your way through that maze of the getting hung up on period.
Yeah. Now to wrap this up, because I know we have to hop off, but but we can't not have a little bit of fun here. So let's do something a little outrageous here.
Okay. Lay it on me.
So let's start from how we met. So if you were to cast your book as Muppet Show characters.
We did bond over our love of the Muppet Show, didn't we, Bob? Early on. And we have a lot of overlaps of things we love. If I cast my book. Well, what a great question. My God. Well, you know what's funny is so Emmett, my character with Down syndrome, is this kick-ass drummer because my son, Elliot, you see I didn't even change the names that much, is a kick-ass drummer. And at one point in the book, I even say when he's playing and when he's in the zone, this is true of my son and true of the character in the book. They're like, I literally I make an animal from
Yes.
Muppets because like Emmett is so in the moment. He's a huge Pearl Jam fan and he drums along to Pearl Jam songs. It's a huge part of how he bonds with his father. And it's a huge part of his identity as being this really good drummer. It's inspired by my son and also by one of the sons of the founders of the Ideal School, her son, Max, who's a few years older than my son. When my son was a little kid going to the Ideal School, we looked up to Max in high school because Max was this killer drummer and still is, and plays out and opens for his band, opens for like real bands, and they're amazing. And so maybe the drummer energy of Animal is a little bit in Emmett. I literally reference Animal in the book. I would say that even though it's a gender switch, Kermit is probably Paige.
Yep.
Paige is Kermit because Paige
Get it all done.
is orchestrating this madhouse, right? She's the anchor. She's the mom. She's creating the whole thing. She's inventing the Muppet Show. She's inventing the place for Emmett to work, and she's holding the family together. Maybe I don't know. Darcy's got a lot of attitude and spunk and spirit. Maybe she's got a little Miss Piggy in her,
Or maybe a little maybe a little gonzo.
a little Gonzo. Maybe she has Gonzo in her. It's true. That's better because she feels like the odd man out and a little bit of the weirdo in the family. But maybe she's Gonzo. And then who is Rob in that he's kind of the most absurd, far-fetched character who's a little bit up in his own head, right? He's a little bit up in his own ego, and he has to lose some of that in the journey of the book. Who's the most egotistical? Maybe he's Miss Piggy. Maybe he's Miss Piggy because he's like up in his own fabulousness a little bit, and a little bit delusional.
Or a combination of that and Statler and Waldorf.
Yes, I love that. Okay, I think we nailed it. Yeah, I think we got it.
So where
Emmett's also all heart though. Emmett is all heart and all love. And I know the animal has the drummer part. Where's the heart? I mean, I almost feel like Emmett needs a second Muppet to get how he's the heart and soul of that family, and he's the most loving dude.
Maybe Fozzie Bear.
Maybe he's got a little Fozzie in him, and he's very wacky and silly too. Emmett's got a great sense of humor, so maybe he's like Fozzie with the animal as the drummer side.
I had to do that. I had to do that for you.
Thank you. You made my day. That was awesome.
So where can people grab this book? Where can people find it?
Yeah, if it's before November 4th and you're listening to this, you can pre-order it anywhere you pre-order books. A really easy way to do it is go to my website, which I said earlier. I'll say it again. Craig Thomas Writer, all one word. CraigThomasWriter.com/novel. And that just has a few links to different places you can buy the book, but you can also just go to those places. Bookshop.org, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And then the book's out November 4th, and you can get it at a bookstore and anywhere at that point. And the audiobook, same. You can go wherever you get books and buy the audiobook.
Now, the real question is, are you going to buy your own book in the bookstore?
I just had the George McFly from Back to the Future moment at the end of that movie. Remember, he opens the box and he goes, "Here's my novel. You can do anything if you put your mind to it." Like the new and improved future George McFly.
Yep.
I had that moment just a couple of days ago where I opened the box and I had the hard covers of my book. So I have like 40 copies of I have it. I know this is a podcast, but you also are on YouTube, right? Sometimes, Bob. So maybe I'll just hold up my book right here.
We're going to take a picture at the end of it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we have to get you back on to just talk more pop culture stuff. Do you want to hang out?
Yeah, I know. I came on a full plug mode and I had my own mercenary agenda today to sell my book, but I'd love to come on and just chit chat again sometime too.
We gotta get you to review the Star Wars holiday special or something like.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would love give me some random assignment like that, and that would be a delight. And next time I won't be on here hawking my wares like Willie Loman from It's the Death of a Salesman.
We put ourselves into it too.
I appreciate it, Bob. And more importantly, I'm so moved that you love the book. It really means a lot to me. You were one of my earliest readers, so thank you for that.
That text
vote
message,
of confidence.
That text message was so authentic and so real that please know that I wasn't just buttering you up.
I very much could tell you really were moved by the book and loved it, and that meant the world to me. getting that feedback from you and from a few other people early really gave me confidence about it. So I'm hopeful it will speak to a whole bunch of people out there in the world. And thank you for kind of platforming it today and giving your stamp of approval to it. I appreciate that, Bob. A lot.
I really hope people check this out. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, buddy. Always a pleasure to talk to you.